Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya, our Ijebu princess. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Reuben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vivai. Good morning.
Good morning, Adefemi. I need to
everybody?
spend more time with you so that next time I'm in this Ogun State sandwich, I
Yes.
can contribute to
Now
the
you know
flavor.
how
Because
you feel.
yesterday you guys were singing.
She
I
calls
was
it the
just
Ogun State parapol. You're now in the sandwich. Good morning to you.
You now speak Yoruba.
Yes.
So you are on your way to being fully assimilated.
There we go.
All you just need
There
to
we
do
go.
to assimilate. Just
We
say,
don't have much time, friends. We don't.
Isheya Omo Ogun.
All right. Good morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world.
Okay, walk now.
Well, I'm not lazy at all. Thank you. Good morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. The US President Donald Trump is waging war with Iran, this time using another weapon. Tariffs. A 25% tariff will be placed on countries doing business with the embattled Middle Eastern nation. Now, he announced this plan on Truth Social, and he says, effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America. This order is final and conclusive. Very clear words there. Now, tariffs, if you are wondering, they are fees. In this context, they're going to be fees paid by US importers of goods from those affected countries. Now, Iran, looking at the Iranian context, Iran has already been heavily sanctioned by the United States for years. And we know that despite that, they export things globally in terms of oil and gas and petrochemicals. But in terms of the United States and Iran, what Iran exports to the United States are very small niche products. So things like handicrafts, goods, artistic goods, painting, sculptures, and the like, food products too. So not that much. So all of this is happening while Iran is again seeing the biggest anti-government protest in years. At least 648 people have been killed. The nationwide internet blackout continues, and there have been calls from the United Kingdom and other institutions to recognize the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. Now, Trump did say on Monday that Iran does want to negotiate, but the official line from Tehran throughout is that though they are not looking for a war, they want the United States to know that they are fully prepared for one. Meanwhile, as Trump makes his presence felt outside the United States, his administration continues to stop travelers coming in. Now, in fact, since Trump's return to office in January of 2025, we are seeing that over 100,000 visas have been revoked by the US State Department. Now, 8,000 of those visas were affecting students, and 2,500 were against specialized workers. They lost their legal status. All of that culminating in this round figure of 100,000. Now, when we're looking at the reasons for this, they're looking at drug possession and distribution, alleged child abuse, drink driving, and visa overstaying ratios. So many of those things are issues of students coming into contact with law enforcement and vice versa, or whatever the case may be. And again, as I said, drug possession. Also, hundreds of foreign workers did lose their visas due to things like, as we've seen, alleged child abuse and specialized workers not having the correct legal status. Now, the Trump administration has been tightening visa requirements, announcing changes in visa policies and implementing travel restrictions on multiple countries, including right here in Nigeria. Now, stepping outside of this American debacle now, let's take a look at the International Court of Justice. They have just started hearings in a landmark case brought by the Gambia against Myanmar. What is happening is that there have been allegations of violations of the Genocide Convention over the military's treatment of the Rohingya minority. Now, the proceedings were held at the Peace Palace in The Hague, and they marked the start of the merits phase in this case. And this is coming after years of preliminary legal arguments. Now, speaking on behalf of the Gambia, the country's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, his name is Dauda Jallow, he told the court that his country brought the case after reviewing credible reports of the most brutal and vicious violations imaginable committed against the Rohingya, which they are a Muslim minority in Myanmar's Rakhine province. Now, he did go on to say that is the Gambian Attorney General, he went on to say that by all measures, this case is not about esoteric issues of international law. It is about real people, real stories, and a real group of human beings. Now, if we cast our minds back to 2017, we do know that this case alleges that Myanmar breached its obligations under the Convention of the Prevention of Punishment of the Crime of Genocide over so-called clearance operations. Those operations were carried out by the Myanmar military in 2017, and they prompted over 700,000 Rohingya to flee to countries like Bangladesh. Now, Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein, he was the then UN High Commissioner for Human Rights back in 2017, and he described the situation as a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Now, what we're seeing now with this case is that over the next 3 weeks, the ICJ judges, they will continue to hear oral arguments from both sides. They'll examine witnesses as well as experts, and then they'll consider whether Myanmar breached its obligations under the Genocide Convention. Myanmar is expected to begin presenting its own arguments later on this week. And then lastly, let's go to the Horn of Africa. Now, Somalia has cancelled all agreements with the United Arab Emirates, accusing Abu Dhabi of undermining the country's sovereignty, its national unity, and political independence. Now, the rift between Somalia and the UAE stems from Abu Dhabi's tacit support for Israel's recognition of Somaliland as an independent state. Now, the UAE controls a very important deep water port and military bases in different areas of the Horn of Africa. So we're looking at Berbera in Somaliland, which has been a point of contention between Mogadishu and Abu Dhabi. Now, according to Somalia, the decision applies to all federal agencies and regional administrations, including bilateral security and defense agreements. If we put this into context, now the cancellation of these agreements also includes cooperation in these strategic ports. So you've got the ports of Berbera, Bosaso, which is kind of across the border in Somaliland, and as well as Kismayo, which is in what other countries will see is just Somaliland here. So essentially, the situation is further being complicated by Saudi Arabia's accusations that the UAE helped a Yemeni separatist flee to Abu Dhabi. This is just the bottom of Yemen just here. So you can see strategically why the Gulf of Aden and this Horn of Africa area is quite strategic. Now, what they're saying is that Abu Dhabi did help this person flee through the port in Berbera. Now, Somalia has described this as an alleged unauthorized use of Somalia's national airspace and airports. So that's what we're seeing here. But before we get into our discussions, let's take a look at our newspaper headlines from across Nigeria and indeed the world. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And This Day leads with the report that two Rivers State House of Assembly members, Sylvanus Nwankwo and Peter Abe, have withdrawn from the impeachment move against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, urging dialogue and peaceful resolution of the crisis. Meanwhile, South-South leaders under PANDEF have set up a reconciliation committee chaired by former Attorney General of the Federation, Kanu Agbabi, to broker peace and prevent further political instability in Rivers State. Today is Tuesday, and Tuesday means that we get Onikepo Braithwaite's article in the legal insert of This Day, and it's called The Advocate. Now, in this week's edition of The Advocate, Braithwaite examines the impeachment processes against Siminalayi Fubara in Rivers State and his deputy also. Now, they are outlining the constitutional process for removing and warning that any deviation could invalidate the entire exercise. She's looking at this from the legal perspective. She also argues that while allegations of gross misconduct must be handled strictly within Section 188 of the Constitution, political power struggles rather than public welfare are driving this crisis. And she says that President Tinubu is essentially, he will emerge as the only political beneficiary of this type of conflict, regardless of the outcome. Now, let's take a look at the Vanguard this morning. The Vanguard reports that the ancient town of Badagry in Lagos State is now in mourning. That is following the death of Oba Babatunde Akron. He is the 89-year-old paramount ruler and permanent vice chairman of the Lagos State Council of Obas and Chiefs, whose 48-year reign was celebrated for visionary leadership, cultural preservation, and fostering unity, with condolences pouring in from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and also former President Olusegun Obasanjo, as well as the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and other prominent Nigerians. Moving on to The Punch this morning. The Punch reports that tensions are escalating in Osun State. That's as the People's Democratic Party and a network of civil society groups accuse the sitting ruling APC Congress chairman of illegally occupying local government council secretariats, while the APC insists its officials are lawfully reinstated. This is highlighting a clash over tenure, court rulings, and the role of police in this ongoing uncomfortable process. Moving on to the Daily Independent. The Daily Independent reports that NAFDAC has assured Nigerians that all Nestle infant formula sold in the country is safe for consumption. They have clarified that the ongoing recall in over 50 countries affects only UK batches not registered in Nigeria. That actually uncovers a whole different kettle of fish, but we'll get back to that. Now, locally approved SMA and NAM products remain unaffected. That is what they say, so they want people to be easy. Now, the New Telegraph also reports that the National Association of Resident Doctors says it will review the suspension of its proposed strike in 2 weeks. This is following partial government concessions and ongoing concerns over working conditions and health policies. Let's take a look at the leadership. Wonderful. So the leadership reports that the United States Department of State has revoked, as we said in the World Brief, over 100,000 visas, including around 8,000 student permits and 2,500 specialized working visas. And they've been citing encounters with law enforcement for criminal activity as part of the broader efforts to enhance public safety and enforce immigration laws. Now, the Daily Nation of Kenya, we haven't looked at this paper in a while. So this is what draw our attention. So the paper is reporting that the ODM, that's the Orange Democratic Movement, has approved pre-election coalition talks ahead of the 2027 polls, signaling a possible alliance with the ruling United Democratic Alliance as the party weighs its electoral strategy and internal divisions following recent leadership disputes in the country. And finally, let's take a British paper. Okay, we've got the Eye, and the Eye is reporting that the UK government is considering following Australia's lead and banning social media for teenagers under 16 years old. Well, that brings us to the end of our newspaper review and our World Brief. Love to hear your thoughts if we've got the time.
You can see the same Zahawi that was begging for a peerage has gone to join reforms because he wants to be popular and he wants to be relevant. The same part of the Tory bunch that destroyed the UK. But let me go... Oh, Aminto, we don't have time for a chat. Okay, I'll rest it now.
Oh.
We gotta go. Okay, yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Edefemi. I hope some of these issues can resurface tomorrow so we can delve deeper into them.